people are too scared to say what they actually think about the fitness industry, pop culture, and politics. But I'm not most people. This episode isn't polished, it's not edited, it's me, raw, unfiltered, and saying the things everybody's whispering about but won't post online because they're afraid that they're going to get canceled. From Tampa's fitness clout to chasing burnout disguised as balance to fake empowerment and leadership, I'm diving headfirst into the conversations that make people uncomfortable because that, ladies and gentlemen, is where the truth lies. If you're tired of the highlight reels, the curated captions, and the performative authenticity, this one's for you. Welcome back to Mindset, Health, and Empowerment, the Unfiltered Trainer podcast, Hot Takes Edition. So between you and me, we've got quite a list that we're going to dive right into. In today's episode, we're going to answer some little Q&A, very unfiltered style questions as we go through each category, and we're just going to have an open, honest discussion. The first question that I feel like is the most popular is under the fitness category, and it would be, how do you really feel about what just happened? And if you've been new to the podcast, or maybe you're not on social media as often, this person is referencing the recent and sudden closure of my fitness studio. When I think about how to answer this question, I honestly don't know if everybody's going to agree with me about my feelings. When I thought about answering this question, I am not mad at our owners for making the decision that they had to make. At the end of the day, they did what was best for them. And in a way, I can't fault them for that. What I will say that I think is so hard for me is the fact that I feel very disrespected because I have been with them since day zero. I am actually the only employee that is left from the original team that started to build out this company before it was anything, before anybody even knew what the brand was. And so when this decision got made, from the conversations that have been had, it sounds like this decision was made months ago, but we were only made aware of it 1 month ago. And at the time, over the course of the last 6 months, if you've been listening, you know, I've been sick. And I have been dealing with a progression of my GI condition and one of the most severe exacerbations I have ever endured. I am still recovering from it. And so the fact that a decision was being made, and even though I gave my absolute soul to this company to build it, to make it what it's known for, the fact that I didn't even get a warning, that is what personally upsets me. And what I think I've struggled with the most is that I would never do this to somebody. I would never do somebody like this at all. And so the fact that I know you cannot expect yourself from other people. However, I think there's a certain level of respect and decency when dealing with humans who have a livelihood, who, for me, I need health care, are trying to maintain a roof over their head in one of the worst economies and hardest job markets. I just think a warning would have gone a long way. I think that is what I'm personally struggling with the most when I think about the overall picture of how I really feel about what happened. I feel like my soul was crushed for 2 reasons. I feel most upset for my team, because I genuinely love them and they deserved better, and they didn't get what they truly signed up for, nor did they get what they deserved. And it kills me because I strive to be a good leader who lets my team know they're appreciated. I try to do small ways to show them my appreciation that goes outside of just a thank you and a Slack message. I just feel like they deserve so much better than they got, and it hurts my heart that I couldn't do better for them in the way this all went down. And the second thing that hurts me the most is our members. You don't find places like what we created often. It's very rare. And now as everybody's been faced with, how do you find another place like this? I just don't think you do. Not in our downtown Tampa location. I could recommend places to go that are 25 minutes away without, on a good traffic day, or 45 minutes away. But when you look at what you're left with in downtown Tampa, it honestly just hurts my heart that there's nothing of value that is proper progressive strength training. Like, there is nothing left now. And there's very rare communities that genuinely care about their members the way we did inside and outside of the studio. I just think what we built was so unique, and to have it stripped away from us so fast really has caused me to do like a very deep inward assessment of myself. And as a result, really made me reevaluate my choices and things I'm willing to do again. And so, while I know these people may not have been the right people for this, I really just wish we had been given ample amount of time to find a way to save the studio and to have maintained such a beautiful, safe environment. I think I'm just crushed for the way that it went down, not necessarily for a decision that had to be made by somebody. I just feel like I got my soul stomped on. And I think it's really going to take me some time before I entertain any other ideas, because I just don't know, because this is the second question that came through was, would you run a studio again? And in this moment, absolutely not. Point blank period. I will never run a franchise fitness studio again. There's no way. There's no way in hell. You give your soul. I would work 12, 16-hour days, barely had a life, and I was being paid, but I have nothing to show for it. 2 years of my life is gone, and I have nothing to show for it. And the reality is, if it's not yours and your name isn't on the operations agreement, you can build it, but you are building somebody else's dream. You're building somebody else's business. I will never work for another large franchise like this again. Now, that doesn't mean I won't teach for a private studio or a private local franchise, but when you talk on a global scheme, like, would I do this again? Absolutely not. Absolutely not, because at the end of the day, I also didn't get what I signed up for. I had other plans, other decisions had been made, other ideas. Like, there's so much that was supposed to come out of this that I did not get. And I did not sign up to have to work 2 jobs to keep my head above water until we met the expectations that I had actually signed up for and the job I had signed up for. So I don't think I could ever work for a franchise fitness studio again. I just don't think that you're paid enough for the amount of work. And I just don't think clearly that you are even a thought in a bucket when push comes to shove. I just don't think I could do it again. The third question that came through was also about fitness. So I kind of categorized this for the podcast so that it kind of wasn't all over the place. And it said, what will you miss or not miss about your studio closing? And this one's really simple. I won't miss waking up at 3:30 a.m., point blank period, won't do it, because a lot of times I was also closing, so I was getting home at 8:30. I won't miss overworking myself and having nothing to show for it. I won't miss the petty power struggle nonsense situations that go down in studios like this, because now this is not my, this isn't my first studio. And just like the nonsense, the drama, it's something I will not miss. I just feel like I'm too grown for some of the shit I endured. And I just won't be sad to never have to have those interactions again. It's very simple what I will miss. I miss my team so much already, and it's only been a week. I miss our members. I think I feel the most alone I've ever felt in Tampa. And I think I realized that on our last day. So obviously it's a very weird scenario, hosting your final classes, somehow trying to summarize the last 2 years of your life when you're still trying to comprehend what the hell just happened. And then we did a really simple bar crawl after the event. And as the day progressed, obviously people would slowly start to trickle out and they would go home, and the group got smaller and smaller. And, by the time the end of the evening had come, I was walking home alone, and I sobbed the entire way home because I realized just how alone I am in this city when I don't have this community. And this is the second time I've been through this. And it was just really gut-wrenching for me because at least last time I had a really good core group of friends. And it's not like I don't have good friends. If you're listening in Tampa, I love you. But it's different now at this phase of life. People have settled down. People are having kids. So many of my friends have moved, and some are about to move. And it's that large use, group I became accustomed to, where it was just easy to does somebody want to get dinner? Does somebody want to go for a walk? Instead of scheduling 6 to 8 weeks out to have a girls' night. And I think I was just faced with the realization of, you're here. You're stuck here because you had just renewed your lease a month ago. And you're going to be more alone than you've ever been living in this city. And I think I realized in that moment just how much I was about to have to go through and how much inner work I was going to have to do. I think that is what I'm going to miss most, is just how incredible these people I was surrounded with every day were, and just how much light they brought into my life. Another question I got about fitness was, why do so many trainers preach balance while living in burnout? And without being disrespectful, I think I can easily answer this because, at least in Tampa is so god-awful expensive now. And it's nice, but it's not that nice. It is not $3,000 one-bedroom price nice. We're not on the water. The bay smells. Like, when you see people walking Bayshore and it's summer, Bayshore smells. Like, it's not paradise the way people perceive it on social media. It's nice. And we'll talk about this because somebody asked the pros and cons of living here. But it's not $3,000, 600 square foot nice. And so I think people preach balance and all of these healthy lifestyle tips because it's what works. But when you work full-time in fitness, at least for me, because I work in in-person fitness too, both studios I managed, I had to teach 20 classes minimum. So imagine this, 20 classes a week. Think how many hours that is. I had a second job because working full-time in fitness at these 2 franchise fitnesses I worked at was not enough to pay your bills alone, given the current circumstances of how expensive Tampa is. So I had a second job. And then you're still supposed to take care of yourself. I am in the worst shape of my life now twice running fitness studios. And it's just comical because you feel like a hypocrite because you are preaching these things. However, because of the lifestyle, the early hours, the late nights, the events, you don't necessarily take care of yourself the way you should. So I think that's why you see a lot of people preaching things, but are also living in burnout because it's the nature of the industry. And if you're going to make it and keep a roof over your head, y'all, the amount of hours you got to put in is next level wild. Transitioning into the second topic and category is all kind of about Tampa. Somebody asked me, do I still love living here? And I think this question came at a perfect time because as I'm filming this podcast, yesterday I went to yoga and brunch with a couple friends, and then I went home. And I don't know what happened, but a few hours later, after getting some stuff done around my apartment, there was a palpable shift. And I looked at my couch where I was sitting, and I realized that if I didn't do something in that very moment, I was not getting up from that couch. And so I packed a bag and I drove to the beach. And that is something that for me has never gotten old. I don't take it for granted. I'm so grateful because I feel this incredible alignment when I'm at the ocean, and I feel it's a different kind of grounding and peace. And so for me, I still think the good outweighs the bad of living here. I personally do. I love the access to the water and how many beaches are within an hour of here. Yes, it's a hike to drive there, But that's something that, like, if I moved home to Pittsburgh, because so many people asked me if that was my plan, I genuinely think I would have to be medicated because my TBI caused a multitude of mental health issues that, like, they literally sit you down with pamphlets and warn you about. I just feel like if I went home and had to deal with those issues in this gray, overcast place, I just don't think I would be well. And I think I would need some type of assistance. So in my opinion, I think the good outweighs the bad. Cons of living here are super simple. Somebody asked pros and cons of living in Tampa. Cons, the extreme cost. Like, nobody gets paid shit here, right? So if you work for a local company, you don't make anything. It's a transient tourist location. If you're not taking the job, somebody else will. And the easiest way to understand this, if you don't live in Tampa and you haven't seen this crazy like explosion in the last 2 years, the last report we got about like the state of things said this: 3 cities still moving to Tampa: New York, LA, Chicago, right? The average ages of people still moving here at like an alarming rate are 25 to 35-year-olds, and the average salary for those 3 cities moving here is $200,000. People in Tampa make, in this particular area, 74 to 98 is the last update I saw. You can't rent a 1-bedroom in this part of town making less than almost $110,000. Make it make sense. Companies pay you shit. The cost of living is skyrocketing because so many wealthy work from home people are moving here, which is fine. Good for them. More power to you. But it is making it extremely hard if you live and work here. And that's what I think is so interesting. And maybe this is my like unfiltered take about all of this, is the people, especially from New York, that talk so much shit about living in New York. The only reason why you're thriving in Tampa is because of your New York salary. So New York can't be all that bad if you're still able to make that kind of money. Of course you're thriving in Tampa. Of course $3,000, $4,000 apartments are nothing to you when you're used to paying $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. But you're only accustomed to the lifestyle you're living because your salary is not local. And that's a big con of living here, is just the extreme cost. The other thing that I freaking can't stand is Tampa has been this hidden gem. We started coming down here in my early 20s. It is a very small place. Like, Tampa is so small and no one cares about infrastructure down here. So they just keep building high rises. Where my apartment is, there's an apartment being built right behind us, right? Behind that is a hotel. Now, if you don't know a part of downtown I live in, we're on a 1-lane road, both sections. That's it. At no point did they widen the roads before they started building this massive hotel. Tampa's traffic is god awful because no one thought about addressing things when, like during COVID, when things started to boom. Everybody was so excited. Everybody's coming to Tampa and nobody did anything. And now you have all of these people in these small, congested areas, and it makes life a living hell here if you do have to leave your apartment, as myself, who now drives to work every day. It is messy. It is chaos. It is just crazy. But those are my 2 main cons of living here. And I think the third con would be the people. I don't know when people became so mean, or if it's always been this way. And I don't know why I notice it more, maybe because I'm getting older, but people are bitches. Like, girls are mean. And like, I see it all the time on TikTok when people are talking about each other or talking about scenarios. And it's just like, why does everybody think they're better than the next person? And why do you feel so openly to blast people because they're different, or because they don't have as much work done as you, or they're not wearing a matching set? This poor new girl that just moved here that was on TikTok was talking about how terrible she felt about herself because she moved to Channelside and she's not in a matching set every day. I'm sorry, but we don't all have to look, dress, and be the same. It's okay to be different. We don't all have to be in matching aloe sets going to our Pilates classes. Like, it's okay to be different, and you don't have to fit into some random ass typical Tampa box, as I call it, to feel like you belong here. You belong here because you chose to live here. You don't have to look a certain way. You don't have to get work done. You don't have to get your boobs done. If you choose to, more power to you. Be you, do you, boo. But you shouldn't have to feel like you should have to do those things in order to feel worthy of living here. It's crazy to me that that is the direction that Tampa is going. The pros of living here. I always like to start with the negatives and end with the positive. Our weather now, because it's October and at home, like the weather is shit. The weather, even though it rained so much this year, was insane. It's still crazy to me that it's October, it's 86, and you can go to the beach on a Sunday. That is a pro. Another pro is the fact that there are so many wellness events. So many people like doing events, doing pop-ups. There's so much to do if you're an entrepreneur here. So many community events, so many leadership events. Like if you're a hustler, this is a great place because it used to make me feel like I was always going to be the poor kid, but it really does inspire me to see other people and what they've been able to do because of being in this environment. It just kind of reinvigorates you to know that it's possible. You just need to work harder. And I really do love the fact that because I do have a TBI and I can't drink a lot, there are so many events that like drinking isn't the only thing to do. Because I feel like at this stage of life, because Tampa doesn't have a nightlife or anything, you go to dinner and you get drinks. And that's like it. And to me, that's boring and played out. And I just don't want to do that. I would rather go to a conference, go to a leadership event, go to a women's empowerment event, go to a pop-up class to support a local instructor. That is the age I'm at. That is my jam. I just would much rather do those things. And so I really do think a pro of living here is the fact that there are so many wellness events and social events and just meetups that like you really can meet a lot of great people. I know there's a lot of bitchy like people here. There's a lot of just like weird men just in general. Like the men here are a little unhinged for my liking. Like you saw a couple of my recent TikTok videos. Like I just ended up on the weird side of the internet in Tampa, and it's just like, I don't know, men here just like, it's weird that they just think that they can say whatever they want about a female and just call her any insult or derogatory term. Like, yes, there's plenty of weird people. We are in Florida. However, I've also met some of the nicest, most encouraging people. So I also feel like it is like anything else in life. You've got to kind of wade through things, pick and choose. But the beautiful thing about being an adult and setting boundaries is if somebody isn't your cup of tea, you don't have to expose yourself to them again. Just bless, release, and move on. Transitioning into politics and pop culture, the first question, and I actually love this, and I think I'm going to rant for a second as if I haven't already, was about Taylor Swift, and do you think she's overhyped? Let me tell you something. I'm going to preface this statement, okay? I am not a Taylor Swift music fan. I'm not a pop fan. Like the vibes are cute, the beats are great. I'm just not a pop person. And so when it came to her music, I never listened to her music. And that's not like, I'm not trying to tear her down. You're going to see why I say this. When it comes to music, she just isn't my jam. But a lot of people love her, and I love that for her. I am so happy for Taylor Swift because she is in her BDE energy. Like BDE, like it is that girl's time. If you know what BDE means, like she is in her era, the BDE era, okay? That's what I'm trying to say. And I'm happy for her. The girl has had her heart broken. She's been drugged through every single tabloid. Her entire life has been depicted, torn apart. The things that she's been slut-shamed like no other, which just blows my mind because she's always with one person. But this poor girl has been drugged by her neck for years. She's happy. She's happy. She's making silly music. She's writing songs. She's, her world's been awakened. I freaking love it for her. I do. You know why I love it for her? Because the one thing you can't say about this girl is shit about her work ethic. She is a self-made billionaire. Not only is she a self-made billionaire, she is one of the most philanthropic people you will ever meet. When I learned what she did when she gave her concert in Tampa and how much money she gave to our food bank, It blew my mind. And then it was blown again when I found out how many other cities she had been donating to along her tours. And then the icing on the cake of all of this is when the tour ended. And when I saw how much money she gave in bonuses to her employees. I'm not trying to be disrespectful when I say this because I appreciate every job, income, everything I have. How many of us have received a bonus? How many of us have received a raise? Bitch, I know I've not got anything. Didn't even get severance. So you want to talk about somebody that literally treats people right, takes care of her family, takes care of strangers, and then takes care of her team like no other. How can people hate on this girl? She outworks you, and she literally does the most, even though she has the most. And it upsets me a little bit, and I think so I'm getting a little ranty right now, because it's females. It's females on the internet that tear this poor woman down, and it's disgusting. I don't get it. I don't care if it's jealousy. Grow up. This girl is doing the absolute most. She's happy. She's in a good relationship. She's being well taken care of. And I am just happy for her because it's causing her to write songs. So y'all know it must be good. And I'm just here to be happy for her. When it comes to politics, got a couple questions kind of similar that were like, where do you stand? What do you think about the state of things? Ladies and gentlemen, I think this might surprise some people when I say this. I think the two-party political system is so antiquated and overrated that it is literally the reason why we continue to be so severely divided. This concept of left, right, conservative, Democrat, like Republican, Democrat, like liberal, conservative, however you want to spin it, is complete and utter bullshit. You are literally furthering the divide every single time you compare one to another. I don't stand with any of it. I don't. I can't stand the state of things. I can't stand that we are literally, I feel in my time of life, seeing the worst I've ever seen things in terms of hatred, in terms of racism, sexism, anti-Semitism, the fact that you're literally painting over rainbow sidewalks. Like, people can't just be who they are. Like, we are so pressed about making sure that our belief system is correct and that, oh, we're holier than thou, you know, as if we know what our belief system is right. I genuinely think that you could solve the majority of the problems going on in America, in the world, honestly, if people would mind their own damn business, stay in their own lane, and stop trying to force their belief systems onto other people. Point blank, period. If you want to believe in Christianity, good for you. If you want to believe in Buddhism, Hinduism, good for you. It's your life and your ability to believe those things. Doesn't mean you're right. We don't know until we die what even happens. So the fact that you're denouncing entire groups of people because they're quote unquote different from what you believe is insane. Like, it really is insanity to me that this is where we are in 2025, that you're trying to eradicate parts of history and erase people's entire belief system and tell them that they're going to go to hell because they believe XYZ. I can't believe people say these thoughts out loud and don't realize or remember that you will answer for how you lived your life one day. I do believe this. And the fact that you act the way you act and say the things you do just because you don't agree is disgusting. It's deplorable. And I really do think, like, genuinely, it will never get better if we continue to play into this little puppeted narrative of one side versus the other, because they are so extreme anymore. It's concerning, and the wealth gap just keeps getting bigger. And you're falling into these traps. And this is literally one of the things that I think is the hardest for me to understand, because when I was in high school, we had to take a civics class before we got to vote and did your application to vote. I know my branches of my government. I know my constitutional rights. I know XYZ, right? So when people are like, oh, freedom of speech, does not mean you have the freedom to defame and slander people. You're supposed to be able to freely speak about your government, but that doesn't look like that's going to be continuing much longer. It's wild to me how uneducated people are about the political system in general and the government. And it's wild to me because we have the internet, but because people don't realize the more uneducated you are, the easier you are to manipulate. And some people love that. And that is why this narrative of this divide is continuing to widen and worsen. If more people band together and realize that these extreme gaps that are happening are on purpose, I really do feel like we could come together and repair things. So that kind of summarizes the multiple political questions that came through. I don't believe in a two-party system. I don't side with any side. I think both sides are full of shit and aren't doing anything to help people. But I do think there are small people like Jasmine Crockett who are standing up for what they believe in and calling out both sides the way they need to be called out. And people like her give me hope for the future of our political system. Now, transitioning into leadership, entrepreneurship questions I got. Somebody asked me, why do women in leadership still feel like they need to tone themselves down to be taken seriously? I have experienced this, and it's because when you're assertive or direct, you know what you're doing, you know how to handle your business, and you stand on business. When it's a male, he would be called a boss or a leader. When it's a female, you're called a bitch. You're too much. You're too assertive. You're too direct. You're this. You're always too much of blank. And I think because of that, women in leadership feel like they have to tone themselves down because everybody wants, the females have to feel like we have to be liked, to be respected, blah, 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 blah. No, you don't put these same limitations on males in power. You just let them lead. But then you make a female work twice as hard, even though we're making even less per dollar per hour now compared to our male counterparts. And then you ask them to be less. But then you have to work more and do more to even quote unquote qualify to be at the table. And I think that's why when women are in positions of power and leadership, they feel like they have to be modified versions of themselves because they don't want to be seen as too much. And I really, really hope that that narrative comes to an end and women with the skills, expertise, education, qualifications can just be who they should be because they already belong in the room and they shouldn't have to keep proving that because we don't ask the same stipulations of our male counterparts. One of the last questions that came through that I do want to address as we wrap up this episode is about body dysmorphia, imposter syndrome, and feeling quote unquote lost. They ask, why do people feel more seen online than they do in real communities? And I feel like I can answer this because I feel more seen by strangers than I do by people in my everyday life. Since being on the internet, which now is 12 years ago, I started posting about my fitness journey. I got met with so much resistance when I first started posting about losing 30 pounds and that journey I was in. And now, obviously, since writing my book, The Badass Blueprint, and starting this podcast and all of the things that I do, it's alarming to me how many people see my content, right? Over the last month, I've averaged 700 to 1,000 people watching my stories, right? Which, there's nothing crazy numbers. I'm just a small person. I'm not some big influencer or anything. But then when I go to post something, I get 100 likes. So a tenth of the people that are seeing the content, because you can literally see who sees your content, right? You can see your views. Don't engage. A reel will get 1,000, 2,000 views. Imagine how supported people would feel if every person that saw your content, literally you're freaking watching it, just click like or click share or added a comment. I think that's why some of us feel more seen by strangers in these online communities, because there are people in your daily life that like choose not to support you. They will watch your shit every day and they don't like you, but yet they still continue to follow you. But they can't be bothered to interact with anything. And that is the weird part about social media and just how you feel posting yourself online, and what gives people imposter syndrome is because when you start a business or you create a product or you do something, you assume that those around you are going to support you like they support celebrities, right? And the sad reality is you'll be supported more by strangers than you will be by people in your everyday life. It's crazy, you know? It really is crazy when you see how many people in your life buy, you know, the fancy bag or the shoes or the album because they're going to go support that celebrity. They don't even think about it. But when you're a friend with a small business and people have the audacity to ask you for discounts, like, that's what blows my mind about all of this. And I think this is why people get imposter syndrome, is because they're so afraid of what people in their immediate life are going to perceive them like, that they question their ability to show up and show out the way you know they want to. And so not everybody in your immediate life is going to support you, and they're not all going to cheer for you when you're winning. And I think that's why sometimes it's just easier to show up in an authentic way to strangers, because sometimes they do show up more than people that you really thought would be in your corner. So I hope this episode was a little more lighthearted and fun and just a good change of pace from our educational or empowering content that we normally share here. Something I do want to say as we end this episode, and kind of just ties in what I was just talking about, is that in order to make this podcast grow and reach more people and make more of an impact, which is my overall goal, it really takes people hitting that subscribe button and leaving 5-star reviews so that the podcast can get ranked better. So if you are literally listening to this episode right now and you're still here, please take the 2 seconds it takes to click the 5-star button and leave a review. Some of the podcast options just let you leave a 5-star. Some let you leave a written review. But if you're tired of surface level advice and you're ready for real, unfiltered conversations that are going to make you think, feel, and grow, this podcast is the space for you, and it's a space for a lot of other people. So do your girl a favor and hit the subscribe button and leave me a review so I can rank even higher so that I can make a difference. For those of you that are feeling lost in your fitness journey, you want to connect beyond the podcast, don't forget about joining my free wellness community, Impact Society. I'm dropping weekly motivation, workouts, real conversations about health, mindset, and purpose. And if you're a follower of this podcast, you definitely belong in there. It is linked in the show notes. And lastly, I know a lot of us feel lost. We're trying to figure out our training. We need accountability, or maybe some of you just need to shake up your overall routine. I've officially opened up all spots. So personalized online coaching, my workout options, whether you want app access or not. And I've even created affordable workout guides just as something to follow if you don't need the one-on-one accountability. I put it all in a Shopify store, so that is linked in the show notes as well. I've really tried to create everything you need to transform, empower, and thrive. So that is where it all starts. But in the meantime, as I continue to build all of that out, more things will drop, more programs, more guides, all of that fun stuff. The most that you'll learn about that is in my free wellness community, because they get access to everything before. So if nothing else, after you click the subscribe button, join that free community just so that you have a space to feel supported. All right, y'all, until next time, keep showing up. Keep questioning the noise, keep chasing impact, not perfection, and I will see you in the next episode.